I've lived in this area since 1966, and I've lived in Ash Canyon since 1968. And I started out as teaching in Lutheran schools for 4 years, and I just couldn't make a living. They paid $10 a day. It didn't work out very well. And so then I went to public schools, and I taught this here for 32 years before retiring. Okay.
Where'd you teach? Where'd you teach at?
I taught at Village Meadows and Bella Vista Elementary.
Oh, okay.
So anyway. Okay, actually I grew up in a farm in northwest Kansas, and so I'm here now. Okay. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit about Ash Canyon. I'll just start at the bottom of Ash Canyon, some of the older people, older activities and so on. The first one coming up Ash Canyon Road, we have the remains of the Civil Conservation Corps, which operated in 1933 to 1934, roughly. And in typical government, they had 4 buildings, and they started working in November, and they quit in April. And they worked in the Montezuma Pass Road, and they did some stone fences and a few things like that. You know, they did. It was different back then. When there were government programs, people had to do something. They had to work to get money. Now we just give the money away without asking anybody to be responsible for that. Okay, then going up Ash Canyon Road, and ash, by the way, is noted for ash trees rather than the ashes that happened in 2011. That sort of thing. So we go up Ash Canyon Road, we go to the Cattle Guard, and I'll have, oh yeah. You pass this stuff out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And on the left and so on in the Cattle Guard, there was a like a 30-foot in diameter water tank that it was maybe 3 feet high. It was all screened in. And the water came from a spring across the Ash Canyon Road, and it went down to the Hershey Ranch, which is now was Bud Strom's ranch there for a long time. That people had the cowboy poetry and so on, but it's now been sold to Teresa Worrell, and she is an heir to a Pennsylvania chocolate company, but it's not Hershey's. It was it's another one that supplied candy to hotels and hotels and that sort of thing. And she and Steve Boyce from Tucson operate the horse and around, the horse rescue business there. Okay. All right, anyway, that's where that tank was. And then further up the road and stuff to the left, there used to be a house that I remember there, and it was kind of a watering place that the rancher who had the lease at that particular time, when I came, was Albert and Ursula Capt, C-A-P-T, and they had it at that time. In order to have the grazing lease, it cost $40,000. So if you're a rancher, you had to pay $40,000, and you had it for a certain amount of time, and then you could sell it and pass it on to somebody else. But at that particular time, after they had it and they died, no one else received it after that because the forest had other plans for it. When I first came to this area, there was only one Forest Service person, and it was Adrian Hill from Patagonia, and he took care of all the forest, the Coronado National Forest. And whenever we had a fire, all the neighbors and everybody helped out with the fire to contain it. And we didn't have very many fires because they had cattle that were grazing in the past in the grass. They ate the grass and they ate the leaves and all the brush. So we didn't have the fires that got out of control. Since then, the forest people decided they knew more, and so they didn't allow the cattle to be in, which was really a devastation. Okay, then going up the canyon, further up the canyon, Let's see. You come to a fork in the road. There's a left fork, which is called the Ash Canyon Road, and the right fork is Lutz Canyon. Okay. On the left, if you go up, you go past the first dip, and then you go to the second dip. Well, the first dip, if you look to the right, there are several gold mining claims. One was used quite a bit by Orrin Lamb, who was a doctor here, but he's retired now since then. But going up in the second dip, when you go to the second dip, you know, like a little canyon, that sort of thing. On the right, there's looks like a parking lot. It looks like there's another road that's going to be to the right. Well, a little bit further to the left and so on, you will see, if you look toward the north, you will see limestone. It's really kind of a gray limestone. It's not really white like you'd expect to see it. It's gray. Well, in that area, there is a cave. And I'm just going to pass some pictures here, around here. Well, maybe I got it over here. The first picture shows the location of the cave, and if anybody comes up Ash Canyon, I'll be happy to show you where it's at. Just pass that.
Get sent to Minnesota to get converted into strike, sort of like a Can-Am, not like a regular strike.
Pass that. Okay. All right. There is a cave on the right side, but I can show you where there's a cave. And my daughter and I, in 1992, we explored this cave with Hans Bodenhammer, who was a spelunker, and his girlfriend Tammy. And we went down, and you had to crawl on your hands and knees for about 20 minutes, mostly rocks and everything else. And we didn't think about rattlesnakes and all that kind of stuff at that time. We just went through anyway. And once you got inside the cave, well, you'd crawl, and then there was a shaft you had to go down about 15 feet, but it was near enough that you could hold your hands out here so it wouldn't be, so you could get down. Okay, and then once you get down, we saw soda straws, we saw drapery, we saw stalactites, stalagmites, and this is a living cave. It's wet. Okay, and right now, the spelunkers and so on, you can go in the hole for about 4 feet or so, and then they have a gate over there. If you want to go into the cave further, you have to get permission for the Forest Service. But in the 1990s, you didn't have to. My daughter Julie and was number 49, the 49th person to explore the cave, and I was 50, and so on. So anyway, but that's around there. Okay. Most people don't know about this cave. It's really not named, but it's very beautiful. It's like Karchner Caverns, only on a smaller scale. The floor is not horizontal. It's kind of at an angle like this, but it's very beautiful. We just had flashlights, and then the next time we were going to go back, we had lights for our head gear and so on, but I never did go back. I had trouble getting out of the hole because I'm a bigger person. All the rest of them were skinny, and so on. Yeah. Okay. We went up there just a few days ago, and I was showing some Ash Canyon people where the cave was at. Leonard Taylor, that I mentioned in this article here, wrote Trails of the Huachucas, and he's from Sierra Vista. He came here in 1976, and whatever he writes, he experienced, first of all. He's an unusual person, you know, very nice person. He used to be an electrician here in Sierra Vista. Anyway, I have a picture of him on this. Let me just pass around. All right, then going up the canyon, and it used to be you could drive pretty much all the way up before all the fires and the erosion that took place, and so on. Okay, going up the canyon now is kind of a barrier. where if you don't have a four-wheel drive vehicle, you can't go any farther. And at that particular place, you turn around and you go to the right, and that's going to be the Lower Morgan parcel. It's about 20 acres. It's now owned by the Androff Trust. And this is where the Morgans, the Benjamin Morgan, worked the mines on the lower side, the Ash Canyon side. He worked the mines, and he died in 1933 with his cabin. He had a newly built cabin. He put the stove too close to the wall, and it burned down. But he was married to Jessie Dunton, who was a Navajo Indian, and she died at age 33. Life was really pretty tough. He died at maybe age 72 or something like that. But they had two children. One was Josephine and one was Charles. I don't know anything about Josephine. Charles Morgan was also a miner, and he had two children. He was married to Hope Hartman from Pennsylvania. And Hope and Charles had two kids, David and Ellen. Now, I met Charles's wife. Charles died in 1967. I came here in '66, but I never got to meet him. In 1967, he died. But his wife she divorced him because he was always looking for gold, and really wasn't too productive, whatever. So she became a teacher, and she was teaching the Dos Cabeces area, which is near Wilcox. And then she said, I met her, and she said that she taught somewhere in the east side of the Huachucas, but she couldn't remember which one had a school. Now there is a school, the remains of a school, a blockhouse in Baumkirchner Canyon, Baumkirchner Road. And the Baumkirchners, you probably know, they used to have the military in here in Sierra Vista a long time ago. Okay, all right. So that was them. Now Charlie Morgan, further up the canyon was the Upper Morgan claim, and this was placer mining. Actually looks like placer, but it is a kind of type of mining where they take water, hydraulic water, and they shoot it against the banks. And then the rocks come down and everything comes down. It goes through sluice boxes, and if there's any gold, it'll hold behind the little boards and so on that they have in these boxes. And that's what they use for getting the gold. Most of the gold in Ash Canyon is about 4 feet down. It's the old, ancient stream bed. Well, anyway, somewhere either Benjamin or Charles found a gold nugget that was 21 ounces. In 1911, it was sold for $400. I think it's about $19 an ounce or something like that. Today, that nugget would have been worth $38,900. But this was found in Ash Canyon in their hydraulic mine. Okay, there's 20 acres or so, a little over 20 acres in this upper mining claim. It's in the left fork now. It's now owned by David. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that Charles and Hope had two children, David and Ellen. Okay, it's now owned by the family of David Morgan. Okay, so that's that, and it's also owned by Leroy Helmstetter. Leroy Helmstetter worked for IBM in this area. And he and John Reback and myself, we used to go motorcycle riding or whatever. But anyway, he owns this. He's half owner of this claim. But it's not really a claim because they just took the area and they shot water up against the banks. And anything rocks or gold or whatever would come down. You might be lucky to find something.
You talk about welfare.
But the taxes were pretty high there. I think they're around,
Americans won.
I can't remember now, $800 a year.
Welfare and that
And you're
shit,
just,
like
it's
70
really just
grand a
20
year.
acres of nothing. Okay, so then we'll go back. We'll go back, and on the, going back to the lower mining claim on the right side, I made a little tombstone there for where Benjamin was buried, Benjamin Morgan. Okay, so that's, let me see. Yeah, it's kind of a crude thing. It went through the fire. Yeah, it went through the fire, and so I had all the pertinent information on there. Yeah, it's just Ben Morgan. Okay. Then going down, and if I'm talking too much here, okay.
No, take your time.
Going back to the fork in the road, the right side is the Lutz Canyon area. This area has been mined since the 1500s by the Spaniards. But it kind of comes into existence in about 1910 area, and that roughly in that area. This area, the Lutz Canyon area to the right, well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. The first person on the left side was the remains of Bill King. Bill King was a miner in this area, and most of the mines in this area were silver and copper. It was not gold, it was silver and copper. Okay, so Bill King is on the left, and Bill was a miner, and he had a 1952 or 54 Chevy pickup, and he went to get his license once in Sierra Vista here, get his license renewed, and he was heading for the mountains, and he came to Village Meadows, the Village Meadows subdivision, and he came to a fence. He couldn't go any farther. His low and reverse were out of his vehicle, so he could not back up. Okay, so he walked over to Greenbrier, and somebody over there took him home. And my neighbor to the south at that time was Albert Ayers, and he was a fireman. And I, after school, we looked for his pickup every day for a week. Never did find it. And what happened is, Albert Ayers, I think he belonged to the Masons or something else. Lieutenant Sword was a policeman here in Sierra Vista, and told Albert Ayers that, well, somebody applied for an abandoned license. You know, you have to wait 6 months, and he got a license. And it happened to be, was a well-known doctor here in Sierra Vista here that took his pickup and put it in his barn and kept it there for 6 months. I can tell you the name of the doctor. He's dead now, and Lieutenant Sword is dead too. But anyway, that's what happened to that. No, it wasn't. He was a urologist. I'll let you forget. Yeah. His first name was John. But anyway, anyway, he's there now, and I can tell you exactly where he lives in Sierra Vista. If you go down, whatever the highway that goes down past the mall and so on, that goes to is that Cochise that goes west and so on?
Yeah.
Anyway, he lives back on the right side up there. Okay. Well, he did before he died. Okay. Bill King was he was a very clean person. He had burros and all this kind of stuff too that he worked with the mines with. And he was not too productive. He always had a little vial of gold flakes that he had found. Okay, going up from there, going up the canyon and so on. Now I'll get to the story that I started earlier about the Lutz mines. Well, one more thing, I have to regress a little bit. Bill King took over the Kelly mines. Okay, and the way that he got this is that they would kind of congregate in Bisbee, and the Mr. Kelly and so on said, well, if that young buck, he was probably, Bill King was maybe 18 or so, if that buck ever comes around my claims, I'm going to kill him. Well, Bill King shot him first in the back and killed him. And it was rule self-defense because of the threat. And so he took over the Kelly mines. Okay. All right. Self-defense, right. And so going up the mountain, so on, there is it used to be, it's called the Lutz Tunnel, and Bill King always pronounced it Lutz, L-U-T-Z, but I don't really know the pronunciation. It was formed from a group of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania billionaires and so on. They bought these claims. There were 7 claims on the right side of Ash Canyon. And the Lutz Tunnel and so on is completely caved in. The Forest Service, they're not really your friends. They destroy everything man-made and so on. And so they completely caved it in. I was able there to go in the cave before they caved it in. And then further up near the top of the crest and so on is the Black Bear Mine. And again, Julie, being adventurous in myself, we went and mapped it out too. And it goes back about 1,000 feet. There's like 2 tunnels, like about 1,000 feet, and one is a little more than that. But it's hewn out of solid rock, and it was a silver, and they extracted silver and copper from that. Okay, sorry.
Don't believe that. I don't know the fact that man.
It's right over here.
That's okay. You just
Yeah, okay. Yeah, yes, yes,
I
question.
do have a question. Is that land still owned privately, or is it
No.
Forest Service now?
No, it's part of the service.
No,
Yeah.
no, all of that, Ash
You
Canyon.
get bigger anyway.
Well, except for the 2 parcels of roughly 20 acres on the left fork.
Okay.
The rest is all part of the forest, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, the Black Bear Mine,
Me and my dad.
I have to go back a little bit. I go back to the Lutz area. At Lutz and so on, they have 2 pieces of machinery that's still up there. One is a Bruce Merriam 2-cylinder engine with 75 horsepower. And they also, it has a Rand, well, it's later became Rand Ingersoll air compressor, and it would power 6 drills. 6 drills when they're drilling through the mountains and so on, or like jackhammers type things. It had enough air to operate 6 of them at the same time. Okay, and there's the Bruce Merriam engine, 2-cylinder. And when I first came there, it was all in a shed. But since that, the shed has been burned out several times and so on. And somebody took all the name tags and stuff off of everything. Okay, so anyway, that's up there. But then going to the Black Bear Mine, it was also silver and copper. That was it. But anyway, that's about it there. The gold is to be found in the canyons, on the desert floor, basically. Let's see, that's about all. And I'm going to show you, I have one picture I'll pass around here. I belong to the Power from the Past. It's an engine and tractor club situated in southeastern Arizona. And we have running flywheel engines and restore tractors and all that kind of stuff. Well, I'm going to pass this one. In 2018, we went on a tractor ride up to Montezuma Pass. I was driving a 1945 John Deere VR, and the John Deeres, even though they still are worth a lot of money and stuff, they were way behind the times. And the one that I was driving did not have brakes. And so and you don't have, there's no brakes if the tractor jumps out of gear. So I made it up to Montezuma Pass. We had a picnic up there with the other engine people. And so coming down and so on, it jumped out of gear. And so I made it through 3 hairpin passes before having a collision, and then I kept trying to hit the bank to try to slow myself down because you're freewheeling. There are no brakes, and so my left tire was a wide front. The left tire hit a boulder. The tractor went over backwards, and luckily I fell off, which is good. And the tractor ended up about 300 feet or so from the road, and one tire was like 1,000 feet away or whatever. And I was able to get my first helicopter ride to the Banner Hospital in Tucson. But I ended up with a few fractures, you know, broken pelvis and broken ankle and a few other things, you know, head injuries and all this kind of stuff, you know. But, there was no cell phone coverage up there. When a border patrol person happened to be in the area, and he was able to radio through and let the ambulance know. And they picked me up at the museum down there at the Coronado Museum, and then they took me over to Valley View School, and they picked me up there, and then I went to Banner, and they fixed me up and so on, you know. So anyway, I'm a little on the crazy side. Yeah, Bruce.
Tell them how much it cost to.
Oh yeah, it cost $36,000 to get the tractor out because it was the memorial. They said it would be the same thing as if you had attacked the Lincoln Memorial. Big deal, you know. I broke 4 saplings off, 4 trees, you know, when the tractor went over. It actually hit. You could see it hit the trees about 12 feet high, so that's why we knew it went over backwards. Okay, and to replace those 4 trees, and they didn't replace them where it happened. They put it in another part of the memorial. Yeah, you know, they're really not your friend, you know. No. But it cost $36,000. Actually, there was only one towing company in this area. It was Frontier Towing in Tucson that was able to remove this. They had to get a special permit as if they were a licensed contract with the Forest Service for them to do that. He had to buy 7/8-inch cable for his tow truck, 1,000 feet long and so on, and they were able to get it out. So I still have the tractor at my place now, but that's the way it is, you know. Okay, anybody have any questions?
You don't go down any hills with it, do you?
Not anymore.
Yeah, I'm careful anymore. I try to do tractor rides on the flat. But I belong to Engine and Power, it's called Power from the Past. And our next big show will be in Mescal. That's the movie set over here. You know where J6 is, maybe. It's 6 miles west of Benson. And the Mescal movie site is on the north side, and it's going to be March the 5th. So we'll have flywheel engines. I do the flywheel engines, and power. It shows you power and different things. The one that I'll bring to Mescal will be a 8 horsepower Galloway, and it will run a big air compressor that used to be at the top of Hamburg. It was Hamburg Mine in Ramsey Canyon, and it's for pumping air. That'll be in another. Yes.
You haven't mentioned the Catholic Godana and that up there. That's part of Ash Canyon.
Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah. I know Gerald Chernard. He's still alive, as far as I know.
Yes.
And he has his daughter is also in this area, and he has bought a lot of land in Cochise County. So he has deep pockets and so on. He did a lot of things with labels and that sort of thing. He's from Chicago, but he's a pretty nice person. He had a house up in Ash Canyon too, but it was destroyed. just like ours were destroyed too. So, and I was just talking to Chuck here earlier and so on. Our home was burned, and you think that it was completely destroyed in the mining fire of 2011. Everything was just ashes, even though it had concrete block and everything like this. It was all destroyed. And you think that the insurance company would just write you out a check? Wrong. It didn't happen that way. You had to show and prove everything that you had. You had to prove everything. We had to have someone clean off all the stuff from the foundation and the slab, and we had to mark out all the different rooms and everything else. Since we built our own house, we did not have any plans. You know, I just had it up here, and so I didn't. It took me longer to get everything squared away. Dr. Herod was one of my neighbors, and just before before the fire and so on, the insurance company of State Farm asked him to update, and so he updated. He added $1 million to the value of the house. Well, when the fire came, they didn't want to pay. So he had to get a lawyer. The lawyer charged $1 million, but he got the extra $1 million that was upgraded from State Farm. So I can tell you about insurances. Some are good and some are not good. It doesn't matter how much they advertise. They're not so good. I had AAA insurance, but it was pretty good. Okay.
All right, well, thank you very much for the update of our land. Beautiful on Manhattan Canyon. For our guest speakers, what we do is we give a book and we donate it to one of the local schools. So you can decide which school it is. I've already written your name in there, and you can decide which school that you want to give to.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
And we no, you did great. We really appreciated it. So.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right.